There's the top 40 list on your screen. Number 3 is Azareye'h Thomas. And that had him at 2. Wow. Gene 3, Ira 3, Corey 4, Aslan 4. That's the list. Tom and I, the lowest. Tom actually had him the lowest. Tom hates Azareye'h Thomas.
Yeah, that's what it is.
but I understood it because I'm closer to you than I am them in a way. I had him at 6. Here's the deal. I thought when I was putting together the list, at one point, I think I moved him. I think I had him at 5. I moved him down a spot. Then I reconfigured that top 10 again, and I kind of moved him up to 4. And then eventually I settled on 6. So even in my mind, between 4 and 6 seemed about right to me. And I guess you could make the case because he looked great in spring. And he's now accustomed. He's now acclimated. He's now been here a long time. The rigors, the day-to-day rigors of preparing your body and your mind to almost have to be a professional, right? To play that many games, to withstand all of that. He's never been in a better position to do it. He's in great shape. He's a smart kid. He's a humble, hardworking, straight-ahead kid. He gets it. He's poised to have a huge, huge year. And athletically, it's all there. Physically, it's all there. There's no shortage of wow moments with him once a week in practice. Once a week when we're watching them go, when he's going against the best receivers on this roster one-on-one, and he's steady making plays. He'll have entire practices where he locks it down, where you just don't have an opportunity to catch a pass. He's physical. He's fast. He can jump. He gets in your hip pocket, turns and goes. I'm really, really excited about he and Fentrell Cypress this year. I think Florida State's secondary has a chance to carry the day. And we've talked a lot about how we think the defense is going to. If it does, it'll be because Azareye'h lives up to what we thought he would be all that time ago that we described earlier in the pod, which is we thought he was an athletic freak. And now he gets a chance to showcase it because even though he's never been a starter, he's played a ton. If you go back and look at the game logs, I mean, he's kind of close to being a starter.
By the end of the season especially, he was out there a bunch. I don't want to say like he's never done it before. There's no proof of concept on the field. That would be a false claim. But it's just, Bernardo was an important piece to the secondary last year. And you could go a couple of ways about it. Like, I think my top 7 is inarguably the correct top 7 ahead of Azareye'h Thomas because there are a lot of irreplaceable players. Marvin Jones, Darrell Jackson, Malik Benson, Josh Farmer, Patrick Payton, Darius Washington, and DJU. I think those guys are more irreplaceable than Azareye'h Thomas, as good as he is. But that's my opinion because I've got Cypress at 11, not far behind him. Like, for example, with you've got AZ at 6 and Fentrell at 10. Now, if you're going to value AZ higher, I'll use Gene as an example. He's got AZ at 3. He has Fentrell all the way down at 14. It's almost like you have to distance them. Corey has him at 4, and he's got Fentrell at 18 on his list. So if you don't think Fentrell is top 15 worthy or top 12 worthy, then you got to rank Azareye'h higher because he's more important. I just think Fentrell's not bad at all at it.
Well, I think he's actually going to be really good, but this is an Azareye'h Thomas video.
It is, but that's how you define the value of him, I think. And for me, what I'm going to find interesting is there's plenty of tape on Azareye'h. To your point, there is. But when you face your passing opponent and all things are equal, who do they attack first? Like, do opposing coaches go after the new guy relative to Fentrell Cypress, who was a PFF darling 2 years ago at Virginia, was a solid player for Florida State last year? Do they attack 8 first, or do they attack Cypress first? I'll be fascinated to see because I think you could argue it either way. Florida State could have an answer for him. As AZ could have an answer in that moment. They say, oh, we're staying the hell away from him. Let's go work the other side of the field. Earl Little, Fentrell Cypress. But I just wonder if coaches want to see it and they want to see proof before they decide to go throw the ball a different way.
It's been a minute, and I want to word this properly, but it's been a minute since, let's say you're watching Florida State's on the road and we're not on the road to cover them, and we sit down to watch the broadcast and they do the intro and you hear the music and then the announcers come in and they describe the matchup. And when they describe the matchup, they talk about the 2 key things tonight that could lead these teams to victory. What has to happen for this offense, what has to happen for this defense, et cetera. it's been a minute since that lead involved Florida State secondary. It's been a minute since they led with going up against a great quarterback tonight at Notre Dame. Riley Leonard is going to have his hands full because this Florida State secondary may be the best in the country with Azareye'h Thomas at one corner, Finchal Cypress, and then Shaheem Brown. You could get into – you can see that being said.
Oh, sure.
Absolutely. You can hear that intro. You can hear that descriptor this year probably quite a bit. I get a sense that that's going to be the case because if Florida State is able to slow the run down, stop the run, be good against the run, which they did last year, if you're able to do that, now teams have to throw the ball, and you've got guys coming off the edge that are going to force the issue.
Yep.
And now we've got two very experienced players who I think are poised to – well, really more than that. I throw Shaheem in there. That guys that can jump routes, guys that have to understand now that they have the ability to kind of pattern read and jump routes. Let's go.
Yes. So this is why I've got Azareye'h. You might say, well, Tom, you're making all these points that Fentrell's more experienced. Why don't you put Cypress over AZ? It's to your point. It's the ball skills. And even a couple of years ago when they worked in AZ towards the end of the year, I remember in the bowl game against Oklahoma, you're watching AZ execute zone principles in a way that a lot of guys don't. He can keep his eyes on the quarterback and still have the athleticism to move around, match a route, know the leverage, know where to be. And if you combine this pass rush or this, it could be from the interior as well. It might not just be the edges. I mean, if you have Farmer or Jackson on a third and obvious and, you're leaving one guy to block them, or you move a Durajaye in there or a Lolohea in there because you want to go a little bit smaller in a sub package, there's going to be opportunities for defensive backs to make plays. Some guys just want to knock the ball to the ground. Some guys want to take the ball, catch the ball, and take it into the end zone and score themselves. And I feel like AZ is in the latter category. One of the most athletic interceptions in Florida State history belongs to AZ Thomas. It just didn't count last year because of a nonsense penalty. But he's a ball hawk. And I think that matches, to your point, very, very well with how this defense is going to be constructed. So the reason I've got him higher is I think he's primed to make more splash plays for Florida State, give Florida State short fields, take it to the house. That he seems to have whatever that it factor is. We see it in practice an awful lot.
Well, he's 6'2" and long and 200 pounds and can jump, and he's a former receiver. So, that's the other part of this. When you're describing guys that can change the game when they get their hands on the ball, he's better than most because he's a former receiver. He's got body control. That catch you just alluded to looked like a professional wide receiver tightroping the sidelines and getting his feet in improbably, right? That's what a receiver does and makes it look easy, even though it's unbelievably athletic. But, that's the other reason that I look at it. He's going to get his chances, and I think he's more apt to do something with those because he has those hands.
The other thing is he got more furious, and I mean that in a good way. He showed more fire on the field towards the end of last season as he got on the field a little bit more. And that's within his personality to play with the fire and the passion. Some guys are quiet, and that's great. Like Xavier Rhodes was a pretty quiet player, and he was a first-round pick. You can do it different ways. But to me, that's naturally who Azareye'h Thomas is, to play a passionate corner and be a one of those
physical and aggressive. Yeah.
Well, like a fiery on the field leader, physical, aggressive, all those things. And when I saw that towards the end of the season, to me, that signaled comfort. The game has slowed down for him. He knows he's good. He knows the speed of the game is not going to overwhelm him. All he's got to do is go out there, be free, loose, and play. That's a great indication that he could have the year that we're all projecting him to have, which is somebody who's going to be, a top 10 player for Florida State. It could get real fun real fast with this secondary. They've got the one question at center field, like basically the deep safety. And if they figure that one out, I think they're loaded everywhere else. And you let this defensive line eat, you win on first and second down. You could see a barrage of turnovers in Florida State's favor, and Azareye'h would be the leading candidate there.
Got a lot of options for that other position, and that's why I get excited because it's not like there's the devoid of talent to select from with that deep safety, right? They've got people, they've got dudes, and really all roaming through that secondary is a bunch of guys that are ready to get in and make plays. They have recruited that position exceptionally well. We don't ever, when we talk about recruiting, ever worry about, does Florida State have the corners that they need, the secondary that they need, partly because they made a coaching change, which I was a big fan of. And they've been really good since that happened, and they've always recruited well.
So the answer to your question, I think, is 2015/16, when Florida State's secondary was talked about as a group. 15 probably with Ramsey and Derwin James.
Yeah, 15, I think they did.
Asante Samuel they talked about, but we weren't winning football games, and it didn't matter. Like, the quarterback rating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the name.
The quarterback rating throwing to him was worse than if you just threw an incompletion. Like, that's an amazing stat, but we weren't winning. And that's the difference this time is now we're winning ball games, and they could be the reason why.
Azareye'h Thomas, number 3 on our Warchant top 40. Fun young man to watch play football, uber talented, really focused. We think he's going to have a breakout season. Turned in at number 3 on the warchant.com top 40 list. We salute you, Azareye'h Thomas. Tune in to see who's number 2 and number 1. I think you guys probably know, right?